Whoa. Hello, everybody. So, this morning, I was late, as usual. But I wasn't as late as I usually was. But you know what? I have to accept the fact that I'm most likely always going to be late. But it's good that I'm late at church, because you people accept me. Because maybe if I showed up to, a business board meeting later in my life, I might not get the job or get fired. But here you guys will still love me, so it's okay. So far, yeah, so far. Hopefully. Still got 2 more years of me. So, acceptance. The action or process of being received as adequate or suitable, typically to be admitted to a group. And that's one of the things, oh gosh, hear that voice crack? That's one of the things that I love about Unity, is that I've always been accepted when I came here. But I didn't always recognize it, and I didn't always like church. And that's kind of what it was like when I first came here, when we were at the old Legion post when I was in 5th grade. I would just go upstairs and I would sit with the congregation because I just wanted to go to church and kind of be done with it and go home. And Sandy Crump would always come up and be like, we want to come downstairs. You'd be a lot of fun, And I finally went down there, and at this point in my life, I'd wear a Texas Rangers baseball cap and, sports shorts and everything. And I walk in and I see there's only one kid my age. His name was Marcus Crump. And he was wearing a Buzz Lightyear hoodie. So in society, when you look at these things, it's not, you feel that, or in society, it's on an outlook that these two groups of kids, or these cliques, in these two groups of society, a kid wearing sports and a sports jacket and a kid wearing a Buzz Lightyear hoodie that, is whatever, a nerd or whatever, wouldn't go together. They're not supposed to be friends in our outlook of society. But that going down to that room ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made, because he was one of the people who taught me how to accept others and to be open to all people, no matter what they look like. And that's what's so great about Marcus. And he'll actually tell you a little bit more about that today, because he's one of the best people at looking at how to accept others. But one of the biggest problems in today's society, in my opinion, is that everybody, it's good. You want to help other people. You want to accept other people. But at the same time, the hardest thing and one of the biggest problems is that we don't accept ourselves. And this brings me to another story, because at school this year, it's probably been the roughest of my life. I've had a hard time accepting myself for things that I've done. And it started off back 6th grade. I wanted to be in the popular crowd or whatever, and finally one kid accepted me into that group. And everything was great. I was on A-team football throughout middle school, had a lot of friends, and then freshman year hit. And he started doing some things that weren't that good for him. And he kept putting himself in danger, and it led up to one thing or another. And finally, I found this video of him not doing some good things and not in a safe environment. And my mom told me, well, what happens if he gets hurt? How would you feel then? So after all of these experiences and, kind of being pushed to the limit, if you will, for his own safety, I told his mother about the things that he was doing. And so the next day at school, I kind of was outcast, ridiculed, I guess you could say. That whole popular crowd, gone. Just shows you who your real friends are. And I was really in a dark place for a long time. I had self-hatred towards myself. I felt like even though people were telling me that I was doing the right thing, I didn't feel that I was good enough. I didn't feel that I should be accepted. And I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. But luckily, I have people in Unity. And it really showed when I talked to my mom and Russell about some things that were going on in my life on a way home from a Spurs game. And Of course, they were like, oh, you're fine, we love you, we're always going to love you. But I already knew that. I was really worried about the other people that I had left in my life, and that was Unity people. So I get a call on December 31st at like 7 o'clock at night from one of my friends from UCOH. His name's Luke Fecker. He's a great YOU. He's a great friend. And I pick up the phone, and it's not even him. It's another YOUer from Houston, and she's like, yeah, I drove up here. And I'm like, cool. And she's like, you should definitely come over and spend the night with us. And I'm like, yeah. And so Russell, thankfully, I'm going to thank him because he drove me over there, so he's awesome. But I ended up going over there. We had a good time or whatever, but then I talked to them about all the things that had been going on in my life, about how I was feeling, how alone I felt, how I felt like I was a bad person, and they didn't look at me any different. They said, there's nothing wrong with you. We're all going through this. We love you. And that really, that's when I knew that, Unity was, wow, this can uplift me, man. But I think one of the biggest things was at my last rally. And that's where we learned how to be vulnerable. Because in order to accept ourselves, one of the things you have to do is to be vulnerable. And I think one of the most important things about accepting yourself is to love yourself before then. And there's this kind of guy, and he really kind of taught me a lot. And he's right here, and this is the South Central Region Gulf Regi John Sandoval. And he one of the things that he taught me was how to love myself. And that's what you got to do before you accept yourself. And one of the things that we did at Rally was we looked into others' eyes and we said, I truly, deeply love and accept myself. And you were really telling them heart to heart. And I was talking to Marilyn and Marcus about this yesterday when we've been prepping, and it's like, well, older people, they can't go to rallies. How's this going to help them? Actually, you can go to Rally. And if you want to, and you want to be a sponsor, you should go talk to Sandy Crump and go to Sponsor Rally, which is this month. And it's at UCOH, I believe. Okay, it's at Unity Church of the Hills. So it's not too far. It's here in Austin. Check it out. We want you to come. But after I learned to love myself, I had to learn to accept myself. But the reason you have to love yourself first is because one of the things that I learned from another Regi, Kiana Lackman, even though they were all great, I remember these two specifically. Kiana Lackman, she's from Boulder, Colorado, and she said she emphasized you have to accept the light and the dark. Because we all have our faults. We all do. I know I have mine, but that's okay. Because if we love ourselves for who we are, we're going to be able to love both the good and the bad. And it's also going to help us look at other people, because if they say that they're having a bad day or they're having bad experiences, we realize that we can love them because we know that we're going through the same thing. And we can support them for who they are like we love ourselves. And maybe we can help them love themselves. And like I said earlier, I think you can't just be vulnerable to, per se, Unity people. You need to expand out. You need to branch out. And that's one of the things that I've been doing with my debate team. One of my friends, Chance Walker, I hadn't really gotten too close to him, but on the ride home from a debate tournament, I just started talking to him about my life and just what was going on with me and how I felt, things that I'd done. And, he didn't look at me any different either. And he just said, I really appreciate you talking to me like that. I haven't had someone really do that. And I said, well, you know what? I appreciate you too, Chance. And if we do this, if we branch out to not only our church community, if we branch out and do this to other people, we can help them accept themselves and help them branch out and accept other people to make a world of acceptance, maybe. So, we definitely want to, per se, I said this yesterday, make a unified world. We can have world unity. So, you definitely want to do that. And we need to just come out of our masks. We need to show our real self. And I wish I was going to bring this Rally t-shirt, and I don't know if any of y'all remember it, but it showed like your heart coming out of your mask. And maybe it's not going to be as graphic as that, but you're going to show your true self. So we want to make a change in this world, and we need to help other people. We need to accept ourselves, and we need to love ourselves for who we are. With that, I'm going to invite Marcus Crump to come up.
Says it's on. Hello? Oh, there we go. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to World Star Hip Hop, and I'd like to thank Jude McLaren up here for spitting some sick bars about acceptance. Love you, man. All right, so hi, I'm Marcus. If you didn't already know me. Hi. So yeah, I'm Marcus, and Marilyn and Jude, both amazing people, say that I'm really awesome at accepting others. Not so much, I don't think that is much, but today I'm going to tell you how to accept other people in these 3 steps. Now, they're obviously going to be a lot easier said than done, but I'm still going to teach you. All right, so real quick, I'm going to have to glance at my notes here and there so often. Now, real quick, Jude was talking about how when I first met him, I had all these weird judgments for him, and I tend to do this a lot. Like, he'd walk in, he'd have his hat on, and he'd be like, "Sup?" And I'd be like, oh, it's just one of those meathead, jock-looking people, you know? He's not going to want to hang around the kid in the Buzz Lightyear jacket. But then, obviously, I got to know him, and now me and him are like bestest of friends, pretty much. So that's the whole step 1 thing, is you can't just judge people off of what you see on their cover. So step 1 is you got to get to know people. When you look past a person's cover, you want to look for what they truly are, because people are not based off of their labels they have. You can't just base judgments and stuff off of their race or their religion, what they identify as, or anything like that. And you have to get down to what they are in their center, which is just a loving human being. And after you get past all of that, that kind of leads into number 2, which is what happened to me and Jude, is we became friends. Now, real quick, I'm not saying you have to go out and be friends with the whole entire world. It's just that if you treat people like they are a friend and you're being a friend to them, then it's going to make life a lot more fun and tolerable. So, like I was saying, when you get down to that basic level and you look past everything that's like covering someone up and... Wait a minute. Sorry. If you get down to that basic level and you look past everything that's covering them up as what they truly are, you can see them for who they are and how they truly act towards one another. Now, this goes back to the whole, you don't have to be friends with everyone, because obviously everyone's not the nicest human being. So I say be friends with them if they're not like a terribly judgmental person that bases their whole life off of all of that and is terrible to you or other people, because I don't feel like it's good enough to surround yourself with all that negativity. But if they're not, then it's cool, and y'all can be friends and live in the same place. But at the same time, y'all just can't look at each other like you're invisible, and you can't just tolerate each other. You have to acknowledge each other's existence. So for step 3 is this mutual found respect for each other. Now, if we see eye to eye with everyone, then you obviously can get along, but what if that doesn't really happen all that well? And what if you don't like the person that you're trying to get along with? Well, that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop showing them the respect that they deserve, because a person is still a person, and therefore you should show them the respect and kindness that they really, truly deserve. Now, how do we respect? Basically just that. You go around being nice. And at Rally, the last family group I was in, we had something called the expensive rule. Everyone's heard it. It's basically treat others the way you want to be treated, but we also branch out on that and say the obvious one, which is treat others the way they want to be treated. So regardless of how this person is acting towards you, you should still treat them with the kindness they deserve. And here's the thing that I struggle with a lot. You can make enemies with you can make enemies with a lot of people really easily, but you shouldn't just go around and just badmouth everyone and talk a bunch of trash, because if you end up having to actually converse with these people later on in life and are with them, then you're not just going to want to have this bad stuff and just go back and forth with insults. So you might as well just be nice. Even if they don't show that to you, you still know they still deserve some sort of kindness. But it might be hard to do that for some people because we don't all share the same opinions or same everything, but like, that's okay. I mean, for example, I live with Richard, by the way, and he has different political views. Like, I think Obama's the greatest president that ever lived, and he might not. Now, that may or may not be true, and I might just be messing with Richard in front of a bunch of people, but I mean, we still get along in the same household. Like, we're not just going back and forth like, my politics is right, or mine is, and we don't just absolutely hate each other for that. So, regardless of how people think in the world, you can still get along with them because it kind of goes back to the whole thing. You got to push everything out of the way to get to that like main core, like what they are as a person. All right. Yeah. So, all right. That should be about it. But think of this. We can apply all of that to other people, but you ever thought, what if we apply it to ourselves? Whoa, mind-blowing. So, it's like what Jude was saying, how he wanted to he was wanting to accept himself a bit more so he could live a happier life and love himself for who he truly was. And if you think about it, you can apply these same rules to yourself, obviously. So, let's say one day you're looking in the mirror. And if you look in the mirror, you can just make all these judgments. You're like, oh, negative thought, comment, I don't like this about myself. Well, you gotta push all that aside, obviously, for step one and just look at who you truly are. And then for step two, you gotta get to know yourself. But getting to know yourself, you already know a lot about yourself, but me specifically, this is coming from me. If I wanna get to know myself, all I see is the negative, all the dark stuff. But during that workshop we had, where we had to learn about the dark side of us, you have to learn how to accept that inside yourself too, and not just see the good for what you are. So you can realize, oh, this is a part of me, but I accept it. Because everyone's human. We all make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that you should just say that you're a terrible person all the time for making these mistakes that everyone makes. And then finally, for step three, you can finally see eye to eye with yourself, and you can accept yourself for who you truly are and love yourself. Now, hold on, I got one last page. All right, cool. So, those are my 3 steps. And yeah, thank you. I'd like to ask Alexandra to come up and perform a special musical number, and after which we'll have our meditation by our lovely Helani.
I invite y'all to close your outer eyes, take a deep breath in and out, in and out. Imagine yourself on a ship in the middle of a giant ocean. You are standing at the front of the ship in this ocean. There are millions of currents, but which one will you take? Wave after wave, you ponder this question: which current will I take? You may feel lost in the patterns of the currents. As you are feeling this, you walk down to the bottom of the ship where your cabin is. You see the door, and then you open it. Once you are in the cabin, you see a mirror. You look at yourself, and you think, what path will I take? Where will I be in the future? Will I be an artist, an athlete, or a writer? You affirm that God has a path for you. The possibilities are endless. You can shape your own future, and you have the power to create your own experiences. As you walk back up to the deck of the boat, you choose the current you'll take, accepting that God has the path for you. Now that you are relieved of your decision, you have the feeling of complete and utter bliss. And when you are ready, wiggle your toes, shrug your shoulders, and come back to this space.